WK2FM, world knowledge to free minds, and your mind at the same time.
WK2FM, world knowledge to free minds. This is Kamisi Fox, the master of ceremony, and we're going to crack open another book. Let me see. We're going to crack open this book. We're going to switch gears a little bit. This is Passive-Aggressive Racism in the System of White Supremacy by Brother Phillip Scott. And we're going to skip the preface. We're going to go straight to chapter 1. And I want everybody to go along with us. You know, we crack open books. Inside books, there is the knowledge. There's a whole lot of treasure inside the books. Let's go inside this one. This one is no different. And the chapter 1 says, asking threat-based questions. Yeah, asking threat-based questions. Yeah. You know, a little slick tool of white supremacists. Brother Phil says, passive-aggressive racism is a reliability. Passive-aggressive racism is a reality for many in this country. I can only speak as an African American who deals with it daily. When you look at television, most of the commercials have Caucasians in it. If you judged America's population based on commercials, you would think that there wasn't African American, Native American, Hispanic, Arab, Asian, or Pacific Islander persons that lives in our country. When you look at Fortune 500 companies, most leadership is Caucasian and male. Our law enforcement, even in predominantly African American areas, is overwhelmingly white. From police officers to prosecutors to judges, when one enters the criminal justice system, it is a sea of white male leadership and authority. Are African Americans seeking the jobs or running for public office? They are, but equality isn't reflected because Caucasians love white supremacy. I used all the examples to make a point. When an African American person makes the kind of assessment I made, most Caucasians will never tell the truth. White supremacists know that U.S. institutions and systems benefit them. Unfortunately, they will never admit it. Caucasians will benefit the most. Instead of facing the truth, most of them will use deflection tactics on a black person who questions the lack of equality. Let's explore common responses from those that rather deflect to hide their enjoyment of privilege due to white supremacy. And we all know that. Yeah, we all know that they deflect and do that. It's not in their best interest to agree with you when you point out racism. You know, they're going to try to pretend like the system is fair for all of us. We all know it's a lie. And really, the only time white people discuss these things with me is when I'm on the job. You know, regular white people on the street ain't going to talk to you like that. And when you're on the job, you're under their system. So most black people are still not going to tell the truth to them, even during these discussions on the job, if you know what I mean, because you know the job is for them. So you hardly can have an honest discussion with a white person. It's about white supremacy because, you know, it's their bread and butter. It's not in their interest to admit that it exists. It's not in their interest to admit that it's prevalent and this, that, and the third, that this system runs off of it. It's not in their interest to say that, you know, to let that be known. Well, anyway, Brother Phil goes on to say, can you prove that racism exists? That's what they'll ask, I guess. Can you prove that racism exists? First, that question alone is beyond insulting to hear as a black man person. It is rooted in privilege and white supremacy. White supremacists that ask this question already know the answer. This question isn't raised to spark productive dialogue and educational exchanges. It is asked to have you prove something that is blatant while taking you away from the position of truth. Calling out white supremacy. If you answer such a question, the job of deflecting from white supremacy is complete. Now you're discussing racism instead of white supremacy. When we allow them to take control of the narrative, we fail at presenting our position. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they'll ask the obvious and ask you to prove it. Like, as if I walk up and slap somebody and be like, can you prove I just slapped you? Are you sure that was me? You know, it's very insulting. Anyway, remember, white supremacy raised them to feel their opinions are always valid over yours. That's right, they automatically feel that way. Never, and I repeat, never allow white supremacists to take control of the conversation on racism. The oppressor can never tell the victim how he or she feels about being oppressed. Don't waste your time answering the question. Instead of subjecting yourself to the goal of the oppressor, remain focused on your narrative by asking them to prove that racism does not exist. At this point, you've returned to the place of offense, so you can watch them struggle on the defensive end of the conversation. Yeah, it's mental chess and checkers like that. Obviously, racism is what this country runs on. You know, they do like to play these games, and I like that, that Brother Phil Scott here is giving us some ways of fighting this, because a lot of us don't know how to have the debates with white people. You know, we submit to them from the break. We really don't want to challenge them. We don't want to ruffle no feathers. You know what I mean? A lot of us are like that. We need to start, looking at how to do some mental grappling as well as some physical grappling. You know what I mean? So let me move on with it. Some of them are slick and will try to answer your counter question with, our country isn't racist because we had Barack Obama as president. Barack Obama is the go-to to prove racism doesn't exist. Barack and Michelle Obama were called every racist name in the book. Barack Obama couldn't do a thing for black Americans. When George Zimmerman killed Trayvon Martin, Barack Obama stated, if I had a son, he would look like Trayvon. White supremacists went crazy about that statement, yet many politicians stated the same words about crime victims. What's wrong with looking at a crime victim and feel they could have been your son or daughter? Identifying with victims shows your humanity to the world. Unfortunately, for many white Americans, it is hard to identify with a murdered black child, with a murdered black male youth, because white supremacy has taught them that we are not human. In fact, we rank lower than dogs to them. Yeah, and Obama saying that Trayvon looks like his son. Yeah, that it really isn't. That may be showing some humanity, but because Trayvon looks like my son, I'm going to pursue punishment for George Zimmerman. That's the part that he should have followed that up with. Not that it just looks like his son. Well, if it looks like your son, Mr. Obama, why didn't you take offense? That should have been a statement that I take heavy offense to this murder, and I'm going to make sure these things don't happen. Well, that's not what happened, and we all know why. But let's move on. I'm just interjecting inside Phil's book. Let me back it up. Where was I at? He said, what's wrong with looking at a crime victim and feel they could have been your son or daughter? Identifying with victims shows your humanity to the world. Unfortunately, for many white Americans, it is hard to identify with a murdered black male youth because white supremacy has taught them that we are not human. In fact, we rank lower than dogs to them. During Obama's presidency, I reported over the years of racists making lynching effigies directed at America's first black president. Still, white supremacists tell the lie that we live in a post-racial America. More Caucasians joined hate groups during the Obama years than under any other president. The maltreatment and disrespect the couple and their children received during the Obama presidency reflects the values of white supremacy in the United States of America. I'm going to stop right there for a second. Yeah, that's done by the collective. So that means a collective of white people. White people can talk out of both sides of their necks. They can say there's no racism and try to act dumb about it, yet more white people join white supremacist militias and more guns being purchased during Obama's presidency. Yeah, they can talk and do something the exact opposite. It's no problem to them. Black people need to wake up and understand that, though. I'm going to move on. Brother Phil goes on in this paragraph. Another response is black athletes are millionaires in this country. If we're so racist, why do whites allow them to make that much money to entertain us? The proper counter to that is to focus on who owns and coaches the teams. How many black Americans own NFL or NBA teams? Why are most of the owners Caucasian? Roughly 70% of athletes in the NFL are black. Why are most of the coaches approximately 95% white? Once you start hitting them with the truth, they must back off from that. You have more answers on your side to counter their arguments than they try to present to deflect them from white supremacy. As a black person, you must learn how white supremacy works. Your life and livelihood depend on it. Yeah, we're inside passive aggressive. I'm gonna have to get outside the book to get the title, but I think it's Passive Aggressive Racism by brother Phil Scott. You know, of the I think it's the African Diaspora News on YouTube. Yeah, that brother. Okay, doing a good job of outlining passive aggressive racism. You know, we see it, we live it. You know, we see it in our workplace mostly because that's where we mostly deal with white people. You know what I'm saying? Here's another question he puts out here. Oh, and by the way, this is Kamisi Fox of WK2FM, World Knowledge to Free Minds and your behinds at the same time. You know, keeping consistent with WK2FM programming, working overtime to free your minds, cracking open these books is part of that exercise. Go to WK2FM.com. Be sure to visit WK2FM.com. All right? But we continue on with this exercise of cracking open the books. All right? Brother Phil goes on to say, he puts this question here. This is one of the passive-aggressive questions they ask you. Can you prove I'm racist? Incidents happen in this nation all the time, especially on the job. We've all worked with them. That breed of Caucasian who is always short with black colleagues. Occasionally you overhear them using Fox News talking points when discussing blacks and other people of color. No matter what, they always side with cops who kill blacks. More than likely, if you have crosswords with these Caucasian colleagues, it's about their inability to see the social injustice served to your community. The black person may call them a racist. Accused racist Caucasian colleagues will act so offended that it looks fake. At this moment, said colleagues says, prove it. Prove that I'm racist. Fueled with every situation you've encountered in the office, you give them the rundown. Their response, I'm not a racist because I support cops who repeat facts from Fox News. People like that believe that if they don't say the N-word, that they are not racist. I don't have to say I hate you for you to understand that I hate you. If I never have anything nice to say about you, support people that harm you, and believe the worst about you, then I probably don't like you. Any person would get the point. Dogs know when a person treats them nice or mean. A white supremacist doesn't have to utter a slur for us to understand they don't like black people. Don't be shocked when we call you out. As a black person, you must make your statement about their racism and move on. It's not for you to try to convince them of their racist behavior. They already know. Real talk. Like I said, and he used the job as an example because that's mostly where you're going to talk to white people at is on the job. On the street, white people ain't going to have no conversation with you about racism. White people believe in having the advantage, and they know that on the street, they don't really have the advantage. They have a slight advantage in that the cops are going to take their side. Law enforcement's going to take their side, but I mean, they like having the clear advantage like they do on these jobs. Let's move on. As a black person, let's go. Let's explore one more question often asked by white supremacists. And that question is this. How are blacks oppressed? Hold on just a second. Wait. We're going to get this question. We're going to get it out. Hold up. They say, how are blacks oppressed in America? You know, like they don't know. How are blacks oppressed in America? Wow. Your response should be, I'm oppressed and victimized living under a system of white supremacy. People who look like me have the unfortunate reality of watching Caucasian cops kill black people and go home to eat a ham sandwich. We watch the media make victims out of cops who usually have a history of using excessive force or making racial slurs. We watched as Caucasians raised close to $500,000 to defend Darren Wilson, the cop that killed Michael Brown for no apparent reason other than he was black. The criminal justice system sentences blacks to more time than any other race in this country. Black women hold more degrees than any other race, yet a Caucasian woman can get jobs over educated black women. Caucasians are given business loans at a higher rate than blacks. Abortion clinics in black neighborhoods outnumber those in predominantly white neighborhoods, with the same white communities having the benefit of nearby facility clinics. No matter the economic status of white supremacy, he just put WS. White supremacists can take everything from a black person. There is no system to protect black people if white supremacy wants to do something to us. White supremacy gentrifies our neighborhoods, and blacks must leave homes their families have lived in for generations. Show me any time in history where blacks gentrified a white area. Every day in this nation we fear for our lives. We have a right to say we are oppressed and victims of white supremacy. I don't support a victim mentality, but support the acknowledgement by all black people to call out white supremacy as the source of our victimhood. Yeah, and he's right. I don't talk to white people because of this like that. I don't have these discussions with them. These discussions I got to have off the job, and they're not going to talk this way off the job. You know, they're going to play dumb, but don't you ever go for it. We know that they full of crap. You know what I'm saying? He goes on to say, if they still won't listen, ask this question. Would you trade being a white person to become a black person? Every question presented by people who justify racist behavior is to make you defensive. Don't allow it to happen. And he's right. Always be aware of their sly and cunning ways, as they will do what they can to maintain white supremacy. Remember, any person that supports white supremacists is a white supremacist. Or any person that supports white supremacy is a white supremacist. Don't allow them to tell you that a KKK member is the white supremacist. They support white supremacy more than KKK members. In many cases, KKK members are white identity extremists who most Caucasians reject. The next chapter we will focus on wistful statements used in passive-aggressive racism communication. Yeah, this book by Phil Scott, most of y'all need this training because y'all get in these conversations with white people and, you know, you fall for all of the okie dokes that he says. Y'all let white people put you on the defensive, ask stupid questions like, prove that I'm a racist. You know what I'm saying? You don't. You just don't have that extra Because me, I'm going to go over there. I'm going to switch the conversation. Me, I can't have these conversations because it's going to lead to fisticuffs. It's going to lead to me, you know, I don't have to explain to you. You know exactly what you're doing. And if I keep talking about it, I might get pissed off and do some things. You know what I mean? That's just it. I mean, I have no problem admitting that. Chapter 2, making wistful thinking statements. Another form of passive-aggressive racism. This is the book Passive-Aggressive Racism by Brother Phil Scott. It's WK2M, Kamisi Fox. I'm cracking open the books, getting the wisdom of Brother Phil Scott from this book right here. And it's talking about a lot of things that a lot of black people need to hear, because in conversation and in, verbal confrontation with white people, we often, we don't go ahead and give them the business like we should. Brother Phil is helping you do that, right? So we're cracking open the books. Let's go. This is chapter 2, making wistful thinking statements. Let's see what Brother Phil means by that, because this is one of their tactics, making wistful thinking statements. Black people had to fight for every right they have today. Grudgingly bestowed, our freedom came at a price. We were enslaved, raped, discriminated against, and still suffer white supremacist terrorism that our government allows. I truly believe that those who celebrate white supremacy and violence are inhuman, because humans feel for others. Humans are remorseful when they kill another person. White supremacists feel it's their right to kill black people, so they don't bat an eye at doing it. What's worse is many Caucasians support the actions of police officers. How does a person who is not a cop get away with killing a black person in cold blood? White supremacy, that's the answer, Fox News gave George Zimmerman, the man who killed Trayvon Martin, a platform to spew hate and to present himself as a victim. According to the Washington Post article posted April 27, 2012, Caucasians raised more than $204,000 for Zimmerman's defense on crowdfunding sites. Initially, we were amazed at the fact that Caucasians would band together to support a man who killed a child. And I don't know why y'all are surprised at that. Any person with human decency can view many in this country as straight savages. Black people have always formed groups to defend and stand up for our rights. We are a people that are always under attack on many fronts. The government killed many of our great freedom fighters because they desire to keep us in a slave-like position. J. Edgar Hoover created the COINTELPRO counterintelligence program to destroy equality and equity movements led by blacks. And I guess they continue that even now with Homeland Security, right? All right. The FBI and local police killed or jailed many of our leaders. The leaders who could fled the country to avoid jail or death. Right? Oh, let me make sure everything's good to go right here. All right, I want to make sure everything's on the level. The leaders who could fled the country to avoid jail or death. We are the only race in America that the U.S. government won't leave alone. Groups like the Nation of Islam, New Black Panther Party, Urban League, and National Action Network, to name a few, are needed in our community to fight for our rights. Many white supremacists make wistful thinking statements against black people, have groups to defend our very lives. Wistful thinking as defined by Google Dictionary as the formation of beliefs and making decisions according to what might be pleasing to imagine instead of by appealing to evidence, rationality, or reality. It is a product of resolving conflicts between belief and desire. We have suffered white supremacist terrorism for close to 500 years. Still, Caucasians don't understand or don't want to understand our need to unify as a community. Most black people would like to live their lives like everyone else. We can't do that being under siege constantly in this nation. Thinking your life is over when you're pulled over by a police officer is no way to live. It further aggravates our plight when Caucasians have the nerve to be offended because we, people who have suffered at the hands of white supremacy and institutional racism, use the law to fight for our rights, our lives. Now, we'll cover common wistful thinking statements white supremacists use to try to make black people feel the need to defend the groups who defend their lives. Let's see what Brother Phil is talking about, because I don't care what white people say. You know what I mean? I really don't. Let's see what Brother Phil is talking about right here. Here's one of the statements, I think. If white people had groups like Black Lives Matter or the NAACP, you'd have a problem with it. Oh, yeah. All right, this common statement is used to make you feel ashamed and to goad you into defending our need to have organized groups that fight for civil rights. Black people and other people of color are incapable of being racist in the United States. The majority population, Caucasians, don't have to defend their civil rights because their skin color grants them every right and privilege under the Constitution. There was a time when black people were only counted as 3/5 of a person. With this knowledge, how could anyone believe that black people could exclusively prevent white people in the United States from the pursuit of life, liberty, and justice? It is utterly impossible. Let me stop right here. And white people know this, that when white people talk that, they're playing dumb, see? That's why I don't talk to them. Because they're playing dumb. Don't think that they don't understand. They understand very well. They're just playing dumb. It's not in their interest to admit to white supremacy. It's not in their interest to admit to it. Okay? It's just not. They may do it from time to time to throw you off, but overall, it's not in their interest to do so. Okay? Moving on, Brother Phil goes on to explain. The only thing the black community can do is name call based upon race. That isn't power. Calling a collective group of oppressors out of their name does little to their psyche or well-being, as the story told is history. They, white supremacists, create and coin the narratives as well. In the grand scheme of American politics and economics, the words of African Americans are close to powerless. Yes, absolutely so. Getting mad and calling them all the different names that we might do ain't doing them no good. Even in the rap songs, we really don't get on their case like that. We got, in the whole genre of rap, we talk more trash. We say nigga, 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 nigga. How many times do you hear the rapper say cracker? You can count on one hand and have fingers left over, right? So you see, they have the psychological advantage in so many ways. We got to change these things though. I'll get back around to that. Right now, this is Kamisi Fox, WK2FM, World Knowledge, The Free Minds. I'm inside the book, Passive Aggressive Racism by Brother Phil Scott. Okay. See, where was I? Okay, we were just talking about the name column. All right. Let me back it up because I want to go back here. White supremacists create and coin the narratives. All right. In the grand scheme of American politics and economics, the words of African Americans are close to powerless. However, when white supremacists resort to name calling, it is a pull to the narrative set by them to castigate and oppress people of color. The power to back up the words is there, even if it's just a reminder of the historical significance of the words used in context of slavery, oppression, and often rape. White supremacists need no groups to defend them because the Constitution gave them rights and the U.S. government defends such rights. The power of white supremacy extends beyond U.S. borders to the world. And it's not just the Constitution, it's also because they just bout it like that. It's their mentality. It's their warlike mentality, but it's their animal DNA that means that they have to do some killing. They get bloodthirsty at times. No, this is me talking now. I'm injecting. This is Kamisi Fox injecting into this. So you have to understand that as well. You know, Brother Phil is giving you a blueprint for battle, but I'm giving you a little extra kick for the battle. Because we are in a war with these people. Don't forget that as I read this book. Alright, so this is WK2FM, Kamisi Fox. I'm inside the book by Brother Phil. Brother Phil Scott. It's called Passive Aggressive Racism. Alright. He goes on to say, black people and most people of color have no system to defend them from the clutches of the seeds of colonization. So for a white supremacist to say, I wish we had groups like that, further displays white privilege and deserves a response that checks them on the spot. To check them, you must inform them of how power, privilege, and system of white supremacy upholds them. We should understand that most white people run an autopilot in their responses to black people. Don't be afraid to challenge them to think, and to think differently. Your engagement may not change their minds, but it will give them something to think about. Also, being open, candid, and willing to state your case lets them know you're not docile. White supremacists should know how important it is to be educated and informed by something other than Fox News when they step to you in conversation. Giving them the real version of their history and not propaganda is often enough to shut them up. And even if they don't want to shut up, you got to understand that it's not in their interest. They know you're right. They're just not going to admit it. That's the white supremacist fail-safe, is to play dumb. This is me talking now. It's Kamisi Fox. We're inside the book Passive Aggressive Racism by Brother Phil Scott. And in the tradition of WK2FM, we're cracking open the books to free some minds. World knowledge to free minds, and you're behind at the same time. I'm Kamisi Fox. Visit WK2FM.com. Come check me out on Kamisi Fox on YouTube. My YouTube channel is Kamisi Fox. I also have the YouTube channel, the backup channel, WK2FM, which I'm trying to bring up. I'm trying to bring up my backup channel right now because PukeTube has given me 2 strikes on my Kamisi Fox channel. So I'm trying to bring up this other backup channel, which is WK2FM, which, you always can associate that with me, WK2FM, the brainchild of Kamisi Fox and DJ Wayne, the Mix King. Right? And get ready, check it. Stay tuned and be ready for the conscious mix. DJ Wayne, the Mix King, is going to put it down for us. Go to WK2FM.com. Check in with us from time to time. We got some special goodies coming up. We working from behind the 8 ball because nobody wants to see black men and black do some real conscious, positive stuff for their people. We need the support of the people, and so far it's really not there. We're keeping this machine going ourselves. We need you to support. If you do want to support, check the Cash App. Check the Cash App, KHAMFOX. You know what I'm saying? I very rarely mention that though, but I got to start because we're working on fumes. We need support just like everybody else, especially doing something like this. I'm cracking open the books, and this is what I'm doing to try to free some minds, living up to the motto, world knowledge to free minds. And that also means 2 free minds. That means the minds of Kamisi Fox and DJ Wayne, the Mix King. All right, here's a statement that Brother Phil brings out here. That a passive aggressive statement. It says, I wish we had the same privilege as blacks to say what we want. That's funny. When you hear this statement, it's usually about the use of the N-word. The slave master created the term to demean and dehumanize us. It helped them to justify their maltreatment of slaves and to break the will of the men and women they stole from Africa. The slave master passed on this word to their children and their children's children in private. The word is still used by many of them today. If you think otherwise, you're sadly mistaken. Yeah, and most of us don't know that. As long as they don't say it on the job, we think they don't never say it. As long as we don't ever hear them say it, we don't think they ever think it. Part of the brain dead sleepy mentality that black people have that they better wake the hell up from and real quick because the sheets are about to come off. And by the time that happens, they're going to have the advantage. Believe me, they're too cowardly to take the sheets off right now. They're not going to show you themselves. That's what the Whole reason for the KKK having sheets on in the first place, because they didn't want you to see who they were. If you saw who they were, you would notice that it's the white people you talk to every day. It might be your dentist, your doctor, your lawyer, your accountant. These are the people behind those sheets. They're cowards. When we look at the Black Panthers, we know who they are. We know who Fred Hampton is, Bobby Seale. We know what they look like. You know? Come on. Huey Newton, Fred Hampton, Bobby Seale, and the list goes on. You know who they are. Bungie Carter. None of them wore sheets or hoods to cover their identity. Anyway, moving on. Brother Phil's breaking it down, right? The statement that white folks make is, I wish we had the same privilege as blacks to say what we want, in response to the N-word. All right. Many of them teach their kids that word when they can barely speak. I have covered many news stories of Caucasian children saying the N-word to black children or adults. It's sad to see them ruin their kids in this manner. Teaching hate is child abuse. I agree. It is. But at the same time, you know, if it's the nature of the people, then it's just the people being themselves. The children taught to hate others are ruined before they get a proper start in life. I've seen many videos online where the use of the N-word by white supremacists cost them their job or business. Many of them don't like the social consequences of job or business loss. Many of them remember when they could say the N-word with no consequence. The issue they take with black people using the N-word amongst themselves in music and art stings because when we use it, the power of the word wanes. When Caucasians use it, it infuses the power to demean and dehumanize. When black people use the N-word, it has no social consequence for us. There's a lot of blacks, I'm gonna stop right there. There's a lot of blacks who will disagree with that. Me personally, I'm not tripping over words like that. I say we should use that N-word to call white people that. They are the original niggas. You know what I'm saying? That is an argument that I put forth. A lot of blacks just try to say we need to eradicate the word. But, you know, wasted energy to try to eradicate a word is just that, to me, a waste of energy. For the simple fact, the word is not going anywhere. Even if none of us use it, Caucasians are going to continue to use it against us. And if we feel so sensitive about that, you can't say that you want to get that word out of your vocabulary and at the same time say that the word doesn't hurt you. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names don't hurt me. If the word nigga doesn't hurt you, then there would be no need for you to try to eradicate the word. So that's an admission of a weakness. You know, we don't see it that way, but if we think about it, all I can do is try to get you to think about it. Think about it. Think about it. And you'll see that, being oversensitive about a word like that gives it unnecessary power that it's not supposed to have. In fact, just like Brother Phil says, when we casually use it with each other, that takes away the power of the word to hurt us. So that's why white people play dumb, like they're, when they see us use it, they know. Even this argument they put forth right here, when we use it against each other, well, y'all call each other that, yeah, but don't you call us that. It's that simple. You know what I'm saying? I don't mind discriminating against white people concerning that word. I want to discriminate in other ways. Anyway, we're in a war. This is a race war. And I believe in tit for tat. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Moving on. Let's check this paragraph as Brother Phil continues to explain that situation. Black Americans didn't steal white people from their homes. No, we didn't. And subject them to torn families, death, disease, poor working conditions. We sure didn't. It's a good point. Good point Brother Phil is making right here. Black Americans didn't steal white people from their homes and subject them to torn families, death, disease, poor working conditions, and enslavement for 246 years. We never freed slaves. after a bloody civil war with nothing in the means of provision nor rights. We never practiced Jim Crow for another 100 years while burning down the homes and businesses of Caucasians. Black police officers aren't constantly killing Caucasian men, women, and children. We could never catch up to the evil white supremacist terrorists have done to us. And let me interject, because we don't have that animal DNA. Now, this is getting to the scientific part of it. Some may call it pseudoscience, but I don't give a damn, because it constantly bears its, the proof constantly bears the truth out. That part about animal DNA and having this killer instinct, this bloodthirst, right? From time to time, they have to do it. It's like it's part of who they are. They have to do some murdering. They have to do some killing. This is what y'all better understand while y'all try to pretend like they're the same as us. All right. Brother Phil goes on to explain, as a black man, I don't advocate for the use of the N-word by anyone. I don't care if the N-word ends up with an A or a hard ER. It should never be used. Some of my brothers and sisters use the N-word, but it is not the same as Caucasians using it. Many blacks died at the hands of slave masters, overseers, and cops, with that being the last word they would ever hear. Caucasians will never have the right to say the N-word in public without social consequences. I don't care how much many of them like Trump. We aren't going back to the past. We all supposedly have freedom of speech. So say whatever you will within reason. It's not against the law to use the N-word. Just don't cry when you're hit with the social consequences. From my perspective, white supremacy is more important than food. The practice of racism and white supremacy is more important than providing food for your family when you can't refrain from publicly using racial slurs. Jobs are hard to come by, and to lose one over your need to be oppressive is dumb. Yeah, and that's why most of them ain't going to say it, but you best believe most of them think it, and they will say it out of your presence. But we have these workplace white friends. We something else when it comes to this thing. We act like, we're dumb. We act like we got our thumbs in our mouths, like we can't think. You need to read. That's why I'm cracking open this book, to get it present in your mind that, yeah, your friends at work, a lot of them support Zimmerman. A lot of them support Aryan Brotherhoods. A lot of them are members of alt-right. Right? Y'all just alt-wrong for not seeing it. All right. He gives another statement right here. And I think this will be the last one before I close out. We went pretty deep inside this book right here by Brother Phillip Scott. You know what I mean? We 43 minutes in this joint and we still going, all right? World knowledge to free minds and your behind. At the same time, visit WK2FM.com. Kamisi Fox and DJ Wayne, the Mix King, are going to be putting more and more special things. Help us build this website. Help us be an alternative to this negative music that's out here. Help us be an alternative to the negative images of the black men and black women by promoting our positive contributions. We got some great underground music. Everything ain't got to be drill. Everything ain't got to be all of the black female rappers ain't got to be strippers. We got some superb female lyricists like Nairobi Selah, Rock, Ty Phoenix. These are lyrical masters. These are not just women who rap. These are lyrical masters. Understand that. And there's a lot of that goes overlooked. But WK2FM.com, no, we don't overlook that. We bring that to the front. Those artists get heavy rotation, heavy spin on WK2FM. Okay? So with that said, help us. Give us some help. Hit the Cash App, y'all. Help a black man out, especially a black man who's for black people, being pro-black, Pan-African. That's the heaviest lift. That's the heaviest lift. That's harder than being anything that anybody says. A Christian can say Christianity, and look, it's easy to convert people to Christianity. It's easy to convert people to Hebrew Israelite. You can convince a black person they're Hebrew Israelite before you can convince them to be Pan-African. For them to look past their tribal group and let's look at ourselves worldwide. That's the heaviest lift, believe me. And it gets the least amount of support. So I'm putting in this work. I'm putting in this groundwork to try to free some minds and behinds at the same time and without compromising. I could get on videos and do goofy videos and do ice bucket challenges and all kind of crazy stuff. I can set myself on fire and be goofy to try to get some instant cash, but that just would, it's not me. So I can't give up my true identity just to get a couple of bucks and at the same time end up mentally fucked because I deballed myself to get some acceptance. No, I like doing what I'm doing right now. We cracking open the books. We inside this book, Passive Aggressive Racism by Phil Scott. Let's go further into this book and extract some knowledge. All right? And he's giving us ways in dealing with. This is almost like a training manual on how to deal with white supremacy. I think a lot of us, this should be required reading by all of us. Really, especially those in the workplace, because that's where you come into contact with these passive aggressive ways. If you interact with white people on a daily basis, you're sure to deal with these things that Brother Phil is pointing out right here in this book. Here's one of the statements right here, and this is going to be the last one right here. We're going to cover this statement, then we're going to get up out of here because we're already 46 minutes into it, right? We don't want to go too far past an hour if we even make it. All right, check it out. The statement says, how can you afford to live in that neighborhood? Wish I could live there. Oh yeah, this is white people. Yeah. If you got a little bit more money than them, or you got some, some material thing. Oh yeah, they try to play dumb and act like, yeah, you got it going on. Look, the motivation behind that statement is they're genuinely shocked that you as a black person can afford something they couldn't. White supremacy leads Caucasians to believe that black people should be poor and destitute. It leads them to believe that all black people live in high crime areas with no hope for the future. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times when I was driving Uber, white people asked, what do you do besides drive Uber? Because apparently to them, my car was too nice. If you got too much nice stuff, if you got something that looks too nice, yeah, they're going to have a problem with it. You might have white policemen pull you over because you're driving a nice car. I can't tell you how many rappers have talked about that. Anyway, I digress. Let me keep it moving. Brother Phil goes on to say, white supremacists love to hear about black people suffering because they measure their self-worth on their superiority to us. When a black person does well in life or better than them, white supremacists feel less than human. White supremacy can't thrive with black excellence. So white supremacists do everything possible to prevent it. Why do you think Caucasians rush to offer money to upcoming black business owners? They know if the black companies match them, they're done. If black people could provide jobs for our community, what good would Caucasians be to us at that point? They know this, so they seek to stop black excellence. In the entertainment industry, white supremacists promotes the most degenerate behavior among black people. Sure, they pay the artist or reality TV star, but inflicting damage on the black community is worth the coin. American pop culture follows celebrities and mimic what they say and do or promote. How many young ladies want to imitate Cardi B? How many young men want to be like 21 Savage? Even the name 21 Savage is problematic. But you get my point. Black degeneracy is how white supremacists inhibit black excellence. Black people that exhibit black excellence in business. Wait a minute, let me get ready here. Let me make sure we make a smooth transition here. Black people that exhibit black excellence in business are singled out and purchased by white supremacists. The result is that blacks stay in the slave position, owning and producing little, if anything. White supremacy wants us in the position of lack and dependency. You better believe it. Many black people exhibit black excellence in spite of the odds, and white supremacists dislike successful black people. You better believe it. White supremacists can't stand to see or hear of a black person having millions of dollars. They also can't stand when we are business owners and money is no object to us. At that point, they look at themselves as a waste of white. White supremacists know the system is for them and against blacks. Blacks outshine them, and it fills them with envy, jealousy, and outrage, and you can best believe that. But just think about it. For that to be the case, they would have to be your open enemy. Anybody who feels pain when you feel good and feels good when you feel pain, well, that's my definition of an enemy. And that's white people, whether you want to accept it or not. That's white people in relation to black people. A black man's heaven is a white man's hell, and vice versa. Alright, as the tide changes, more black people become stressful in this nation. However, there was a time when white supremacists set price points to keep black people out. Now, some black people are in a place where no price point is a limit for them. Yeah, and they can't stand that too. Believe that. As we watch white supremacy slowly crumble, the feelings of despair have caused many of them to turn to opioids. White supremacy isn't taking care of them like it used to. When I studied what was causing the opioid usage in the Caucasian community, it pointed to one thing. White supremacy can't afford to guarantee them jobs without proper skills or education. The world is very competitive, and being white is no longer enough. Wow. Trust me, white supremacists don't like to see black families move to prestigious areas. Blacks don't belong there. They must be aware that although the chips are stacked against us, we continue to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. We can afford to live in any neighborhood now. Don't get mad at us, get mad at yourself for thinking your skin would guarantee jobs for you or your family. Black people had no guarantees. Not even the comfort of knowing where our next meal would come from. Some will say, I'm Caucasian and I grew up poor. A poor Caucasian in America is still better off than any poor black person in America. And I think it was Chris Rock that said, I'm rich and white people don't want to trade places with me. And that's a statement right there. A poor white doesn't want to trade place with a rich black because he still knows the implication of being white in America puts him in a class that black people can't go. Okay? In America. So I just ended it off with that commentary right there. Next up is chapter 3. I'm sure to revisit this book again. But this is Kamisi Fox for WK2FM, World Knowledge to Free Minds. We're inside the book Passive Aggressive Racism by Brother Phil Scott. You know what I mean? Passive Aggressive Racism by Brother Phil Scott. You know what I'm saying? That book is available on Amazon and, you know, it's available on Kindle. That's where I'm looking at it right now. I look at most of these books on Kindle for very cheap price. A lot of good reading, a lot of good books, y'all. A lot of good information inside those pages. We got to crack these pages open. Go inside and see what's happening. As you can see right now, Brother Phil is giving pretty much a crash course. A crash course on how to deal with white passive aggressive racism. Alright? Passive aggressive racism. Brother Phil is giving us a good blueprint to look at. Because black people, we need to learn how to, you know, if we're going to have to communicate with them, I say learn how to not communicate with them if you don't have to. I say turn off your television and don't have them in your house listening to them if you don't have to. Unless you're studying them. But most of us ain't studying them. We're under their influence. Most of us are under the influence of these mind control devices like the television. But I guess that's a conversation for another time. I'm not going to go deep. I'm really closing out. This is, let me go back here. We left off. Chapter 3 is next up. This is Kamisi Fox for WK2FM. World Knowledge to Free Minds, and you're behind at the same time. We'll be back inside this book for another part. And we hope you come there with us. This is Kamisi Fox for WK2FM. World Knowledge to Free Minds, and you're behind at the same time. Here it is.